Morning. So in the first reading here we have Abram not completely trusting in God because God told him that he would be the father of many nations, and he thinks to himself, well, gosh, my wife is this old woman, so how am I going to be the father of many nations with her? And so she, similarly to Eve, leads her husband into sin and gives her maidservant, which the jealousy and whatnot just kind of shows that polygamy is not a good thing. It can't work. So Hagar becomes pregnant. She bears this son, Ishmael. Ishmael is a wild ass of a man, and his hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. In opposition to all his kin shall he encamp. And of course, traditionally, it's thought that Muhammad is a descendant of Ishmael, and this kind of bastardization of a religion that is Islam comes from this son of Hagar. I know that's not politically correct to say, but I don't really care. So, you can't put Islam and Christianity together and say one's one path to God and the other's another path to God. No, they're like incompatible. One believes in the incarnation, that God took on flesh and became man, and the other one utterly rejects that and says God is irrational and God is voluntaristic and God can do whatever He wants and God can make a rock that's too heavy for even God to lift. Doesn't work. So, while yes, Islam is an Abrahamic religion, it descends from Abraham. It is not a religion that leads us to the truth. It's not a religion that leads to salvation. It's a religion that desires to conquer. Right? We think about the Crusades. The Crusades weren't this big evil war where George W. Bush went into the Middle East to try to kill all the Muslims just because. The Crusades were a holy conquest to go and to reclaim that which is Christian. Right? The Holy Land is a Christian land. Right now there's people in the Holy Land, and we call it Israel, and there's Palestine. They don't like it when we call it Palestine either, those parts of the Holy Land. And we say, oh, but there's Jews, that's the Jewish land. No, that's the Christian land. That's the land where Christ came. That's the land where Christ took on flesh. That's the land where Christ died and was risen from the dead. And that's the land where Christ began His church and sent His church out into the world. It happens that after that happened, this religion called Islam became a thing about 600 or 700 years later, came in, took everything, conquered, right? Pushed the Christians out, and then about 1900 years, well, after 600, however many hundred years later, the Jews came in and kind of England and United States and the Balfour Declaration and everything. We're like, okay, here's this land for the Jews. They can have their place now. And in the end, the Holy Land, Jerusalem, is a Christian land. That's a really short kind of way of going over 2,000 years of very complicated and very politically incorrect history. So anyway, let's jump to the gospel. We're all getting less trouble. Actually, probably not, because I'm going to knock Protestants. Jesus said to His disciples, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. When I was in high school and really kind of trying to figure out my faith and figure out what it is that we believe, this was like my little lifeline. I loved this passage. I used it all the time at Chick-fil-A when the Protestants would try to trick me and try to convert me and try to tell me how I was going to hell because I'm Catholic. And I would say, you guys are so dead set against works, right? You say all you have to do is profess Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And one day it hit me. I said, isn't that in and of itself a work, right? To have to say, to profess. That's something that you will forth, that you do. I profess Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I said, well, that's the one work you have to do. Whoa, I thought you said no works, only faith. Now you're saying one work. To profess Jesus. And so for us to say, yeah, well, I'm just going to kind of, believe, I'm just going to kind of trust, I'm just going to kind of go along. No, Jesus tells us you actually have to do my will. You have to do the will of the Father. You have to desire to be holy. You have to desire to change. You have to desire to become holy. He says you can build your house on sand, right? And like a fool, when the winds come and the rains come, the foundation will wash out and you'll have nothing. Or you can build your home on solid rock. Right? You can build your home upon the cornerstone, which is Jesus Christ. You can build your home upon the rock that Jesus placed here on the earth, right? Peter. You can build your home on that which will not wash away, on that which will not kind of fade with time, that which will not move with the wind, that which is permanent, that which cannot be broken, that which cannot be overturned, that which cannot be blown away. And so we look and we say, okay, well, God clearly had a plan. God clearly had a plan. He started his church. He didn't start a bunch of churches. He didn't start multiple religions with conflicting beliefs. Rather, he started his church. He placed it on the rock that is St. Peter. He said, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the netherworld will not prevail. And so at times perhaps we look to the church and we say, yeah, things are kind of weak. I don't really like what some of the leaders in the church are saying right now. I'm not really sure about this teaching of the church that kind of conflicts with my modern sensibilities. I don't really like this teaching of the church that kind of limits me and kind of living my modern worldview. I don't know. The church has endured. The church has been there. The church has survived. The church has gone through all sorts of turmoil and persecution. The church has gone through war. The church has gone through upheaval and collapse and rise of civilization. And so when we look to God, when we look to his Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, one Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, we look and we say, gosh, he really knew what he was doing. He had a plan. That plan is for his presence to endure here on earth so that we may know that we are with him, so that we may unite ourselves to him. And regardless of all of the distractions from the world, whether secular or of other false religions, we know that Christ has a plan, that he desires to save us, that he desires for us to unite ourselves to him and to do his will. So this day let us ask God that we may have that grace in which we can always unite ourselves to him, we can trust in him, and we can each and every day do his will.